house sighting. Yuri Malzev a creepy story. Dravasek saw a house at night once upon a time in a small village nestled deep in the woods. Dravasek named Radovan roamed the streets at night. Radovan was known to be an insomniac, and he often found solace in walking the quiet, dark streets. One moonless night, as Radovan strolled through the village, he saw a house that stood out from the rest. It was a tall, eerie structure that seemed to be almost alive. The windows were boarded up and the roof was covered in moss, giving it a foreboding look. Radovan was curious and decided to take a closer look. As he approached the house, he heard a faint whispering coming from inside. It sounded like a woman's voice, but he couldn't make out the words. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up and he hesitated for a moment before continuing towards the house. He pushed open the creaky front door, and as it slowly swung open, a musty odor filled his nostrils. The interior was dark and he could barely see anything. He cautiously stepped inside and called out, "Is anyone there?" But no one answered. As he made his way further into the house, the whispering grew louder, and he could now hear the words. "Get out," the voice repeated over and over, sending shivers down Radovan's spine. But he continued walking, feeling as if he was being pulled towards the source of the voice. Finally, he reached the end of the hall, and there he saw a figure, a woman dressed in a long, white gown, standing in front of him. Her face was covered with a veil, and Radovan couldn't see her features clearly. "Who are you?" he asked, but she didn't answer. Instead, she reached out and touched his hand, and that's when Radovan felt a cold, icy sensation creeping up his arm. He tried to pull away, but she held onto him tightly, and suddenly, the entire house began to shake violently. Radovan knew he had to get out, and he ran towards the front door, but it wouldn't budge. He was trapped. The woman's grip tightened, and Radovan felt his life force draining away as she whispered, "You shouldn't have come here." And then everything went black. The next morning, the villagers found Radovan's lifeless body lying in front of the old, abandoned house. No one knew what had happened to him, but some claimed they could hear his screams echoing through the woods at night. And to this day, the house remains empty, with only the whispering voice of the woman and the occasional screams of the unlucky ones who dared to enter. And then, to their surprise, the woman in the white gown stepped out of the shadows. She was no longer a menacing figure, but a sad, lonely ghost. She told the children her story of how she had been betrayed by her lover and left to die alone in the house. Moved by her tale, the children promised to keep her memory alive, and from that day on, they visited the house regularly, leaving flowers and lighting candles in her memory. The whispers and screams faded away, and the house became a place of peace and remembrance. The villagers no longer feared it, and instead, they told the story of the ghostly woman to their children, passing on the legacy of compassion and understanding to the generations to come.